Hello, fellow adventurers. It was almost 3 weeks ago when I found myself in the beautiful country of Cambodia. I was in search of a relaxing destination where I could kick back and reflect on my last few months of adventure, as well as reflect on my encounter with Po, the polar bear in Norway. A friend had told me about a magical place called Koh Rong Sanlum, an island just off Cambodia in the Gulf of Thailand. Perhaps Mom or Dad or your teachers can show you on a map. This place was described to me as one where I would be surrounded by sparkling white beaches, clear turquoise ocean waters, and a tropical jungle wilderness filled with exotic animals. They needn't say any more. I was sold. I'd been warned, though, there was not much to be found on the island. No shops or hotels, banks, or even roads, so I needed to go prepared. I booked my boat for the next day. This boat would take me from the coastal town of Sihanoukville to the main dock of the island. In a hurry to get everything I needed for my 3 weeks of beach bum living, I decided to hire a scooter on the mainland the day before. Scooters could be found everywhere in this town, so I stopped at a local garage and rented one for the day. I paid my $20 rental fee and promised to return it by sunset. I scurried around the town, collecting all the items I needed. Some toiletries, including toothpaste and soap, mosquito repellent, food for my stay, and last but not least, a bright orange polka dot swimming costume. I was on my way to return the scooter, with the wind rushing through my fur coat, when something caught my eye. The pedals on my scooter looked strangely different to the ones I had earlier. I took a second look in disbelief, just to make sure. Oh dear, this is not my scooter. I could not believe my eyes. In an absolute panic, I turned around as fast as I could and drove it back to where I last got on. When I arrived, there was a big commotion with police officers and a very upset local elderly man who didn't speak a word of English. I immediately apologized and handed over the keys. They all just stood and stared for a while, their mouths moving, but nothing coming out. Perhaps the fact that a big brown bear hopped off a motorbike made the situation even more bizarre. Before anyone could say anything, I just jumped on the correct scooter and drove off at the speed of light, shouting, "I am so sorry! It was my mistake!" Well, the story didn't end there. In my flurry of panic, I had left all of my shopping packets hanging on the old man's scooter, which meant the next morning I was off to the island with no food, no soap, no toothpaste, and no mosquito repellent. It was just me and my orange polka dot swim shorts. Luckily, I had already put those on in my excitement the day before. I arrived at Koh Rong Sanlum at around midday with no one else in sight, only a local fisherman far in the distance. Wow, I thought. It was even more beautiful than I had imagined. I sat on the dock and closed my eyes, listening to the sound of gentle waves. Oh, can you hear them? All of a sudden, the dramatic events of the day before were all worthwhile. I came to befriend some of the local children on the island, who all seemed extremely excited to have a four-legged visitor as their latest companion. Life seemed simpler here. Our nights were filled with storytelling, dancing, and magic tricks around the campfire, while the days were filled picking mangoes and papayas, playing traditional Cambodian games on the beach, as well as snorkeling in the clear blue waters, making friends with spinner dolphins, a green sea turtle, and seahorses, just to name a few. Imagine that. A big brown bear with goggles the size of his face that misted up with every breath. Let's just say the fish were not impressed with this somewhat strange-looking guy floating in their water. The children knew all the hidden secrets on the island, and so they promised me a surprise and said, "Tonight we're taking you to the stars, Mr. Bear." I had no clue what they were on about, but I trusted them. Just after sunset, we headed off on some paddleboards into the sea. Wow, what a wobbly journey that was! Have you ever tried paddleboarding before, my fellow adventurers? I had to have the children help me balance, as my shaky legs struggled to stay still. By the time we got to our destination, I was lying flat on the board with my arms floating in the water next to me. The kids were now paddling my board for me. I couldn't paddle a minute more. As the day turned into night, the sky began to sparkle with bright stars that shone brighter by the minute. "Look, do you see it, Mr. Bear?" one of the children asked, their voice full of wonder. I looked up, ready to answer, when suddenly they exclaimed, "No, Mr. Bear, look below in the water." There was silence. Oh, golly me! What a sight it was! A sky of bright blue shining stars glimmered below us, creating a magical underwater world that seemed almost too beautiful to be real. We don't really know what these are, but it's called bioluminescent plankton, one of the children explained excitedly. Each one is a living thing in the water, producing light. I was speechless, amazed by this magical and beautiful sight. I felt so lucky to experience it with my new friends. After spending a whole week at the beach, I decided it was time to venture out into the wild jungle and explore the old lighthouse I had spotted in the distance. It was a beautiful walk, but it wasn't easy. Everywhere I stepped, sharp rocks threatened to trip me up. At one point, I even heard myself cry out, "Ow! Ow! Ow!" But then I remembered that I was a bear, and bears are strong and brave. I whispered to myself, "I can do this." And with this renewed courage, I scurried my way through the jungle, making friends with the monkeys who swung from tree to tree. They even threw some bananas my way, which gave me the energy I needed to continue my adventure. Finally, I arrived at the lighthouse, my thick fur coat hot and sticky. What kept me going was the amazing view I was about to see from the top. I pumped my arms and shuffled my bare legs as fast as I possibly could, up all 300 stairs. While I was running, I was thinking about my last few days, spent playing, singing, dancing, swimming, and laughing, and this gave me all the energy I needed, and by the time I reached the top and looked out at the view over the island, I wasn't even out of breath. Instead, my heart was full and bursting at the thought of how very lucky I was to be on this incredible island where life seemed a little simpler and yet full of adventure. And so I will leave you there, fellow adventurers. Why don't you close your eyes and see if you can picture this beautiful view with me? Warmest furry wishes, Brian the Brave. Oh, P.S. The local children have entered me into the island games, which will have me paddleboarding and playing local Cambodian games. Oh, I'm so nervous. Can you help me complete this month's secret mission where I will be practicing these special skills? Thanks.